into the working world. And then we're like the movie Click, where we're just pushing autopilot all day, reading our script, repeating the work process, walking around at a 6 out of 10, telling everybody things are great. And I know, it can be frustrating. Like goldfish stuck in a bowl, we want more. Some of us fantasize about hopping out of the fishbowl by going off the grid or moving to some poor tropical country and living the simple life. And that isn't for everyone. And the pressure of just facing the judgment of all the other sheep in the herd can be enough to keep us in. But I think we get so fed up with this machine sometimes that we just start daydreaming about any way out. Because this societal treadmill is just not fulfilling for so many. And we're put into this system from birth by parents who think they're doing right by preparing us for the very same treadmill that made them miserable. And when you finally do get a day off, it's take care of the vehicle registration or renew your license. Here comes tax season again. Oh, now you got a jury duty notice or you got a speeding ticket. And all the while, walking a life with no real power, every day we have to submit to a boss without question, do what we're told. If you run into a police officer, especially lately, you better bow down and lick his boots. Because if he thinks for a second you might be standing up for yourself, it might be the last stand you ever take. Or God forbid you end up in court for some stupid ticket. Have you ever had to sit in court for a ticket? Everybody is so tense and confused. The judge is condescending and cold. We all get shuffled through like cattle. And we get ripped off at mechanics, at the doctors, on insurance. It's depression by a million paper cuts, people. How long are we just supposed to think positively before we say, no, actually something has to change. My anger and frustration is a valid response to what's happening. Maybe thinking positively leaves a bunch of sad and stressed out masses humming Pharrell's Happy, while every aspect of the power pyramid and their manhandling machine picks our bones clean. I mean, really, when do we get a chance in the system to be respected and treated like a human being? Not often. In fact, today's guest would say probably never. And that's no accident, because we're choosing to live a fraudulent life represented by a legal fiction from the moment our parents signed that oh-so-required document that no one could live without, the almighty birth certificate. What's really going on there? Why do we need to register all our assets? Well, there's a reason for all of it, this web of control, and we're going to explore it with a firecracker of a guest, Kate of Gaia, and I have rambled on long enough, so let's get down to it, right after my little shameless self-promotion for the holidays, because I like how this ad worked out, and after Christmas it's totally useless. So here's my little hypocritical nonsense, and then Kate of Gaia is going to just blow minds on the other side. My, good people of the internet, it looks like Christmas is finally here, and I got some of my guests here to help me help you spread a little holiday love.
Good luck.
Oh, well, I know here at the Higherside Jets we couldn't be more giddy about it, and why not celebrate the corporate-driven season of spending with a gift that, oh so ironically, spits right in the face of the Christmas machine with the sweet, sweet softness of a t-shirt for the rebellious fashionista in your life from my little clothing brand over at conspiratees.net.
This is one of the most degrading things that anyone could possibly do.
Thanks, Freeman. Or better yet, give them the gift that gives all year long with a subscription to THC Plus for one of your oh-so-precious friends and family. I know that's what Jim Mars is doing, right, man?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence myself.
Guys, this is not constructive. Duncan Trussell, help me out here.
If I were Satan, the first idea I'd want to implant into their heads is...
Okay, that's not what I had in mind either, but if you know someone who enjoys THC, just go to the HighersideChatsPlus.com with any credit or debit card and put in the email address and information for that special someone in your life rather than yourself. I know I and all the great guests on THC would really appreciate it.
We don't want to kill anybody or hurt anybody. We want to make a system that works.
Jacques, I think that approach is actually illegal. Let's not do that.
It was a great idea, but it doesn't go far enough.
No, man, it went too far. But guys, all I'm saying is a year or 6 months of THC Plus makes a great gift. Believe me, I just signed Douglas Dietrich up for a year, and he couldn't be happier.
Okay, I love you dearly. Yes, honestly, you flatter me too much. If you were a member of the opposite sex, I would propose.
See, what'd I tell you? Merry Christmas, people. All right, people, as we wander through this carefully crafted reality at the hands of those shadowy puppet masters, we're stuck trying to find the truth in a haystack of lies, and that's not an easy thing. In fact, sometimes we find ourselves aimlessly and tirelessly hacking at this conspiracy tree, and we get caught up in the branches, all while missing the true root of our enslavement. Well, today's guest is Gaia, a writer, researcher, musician, radio host, and teacher of truth in a dishonest world, who has been tracking the big lie back to its source and has been abused, kidnapped, arrested, raped, and robbed by the actors of authority in this broken system, all while trying to live and speak these truths, which sadly is the greatest indicator that you're probably on the right track. I have immense respect for Kate, and I'm really psyched to get her perspective on a whole host of interconnected pieces of this conspiracy puzzle. So let's do this thing. Kate, welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
I'm great, and might as well, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that I'm new to them. The voice sounds a lot lower than you're expecting. I'm what's called a two-spirit or a transgendered. I walk between the worlds in the physical sense. So this was a major piece to the puzzle to figure it out. So not only do I walk the walk, I walk it literally in both worlds. So a great big hi to those that have never been introduced to this voice. This version of me. So thanks for that, Greg. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for being here. It's a real pleasure. We know the crimes and corruption of this world stretch far and wide. We talk about it all the time, but I think you've done a great job of identifying some of the biggest underlying problems and some of the fundamental tricks of these archon overlords or spiritual energy vampires, whatever you want to say. But to start us out, I guess the big question would be, what is the key here? What is the fundamental illusion about our identity that this corrupt system is based on?
Okay, it's as simple as this. I mean, when you look at anytime you look at a fractal, look at a tree. You know, you can start at the top of the tree and look at the whole thing, and then eventually, if you keep looking and you'll follow it all the way down, you'll see the roots, and of course the roots go everywhere too. So what you have to find is what I call the 0 point. Mm-hmm. You have to find the one thing that causes all of the fractals. And the one thing that causes all of the fractals of corruption on this planet, this is going to be a tough pill for people, but it all comes down to, and this actually ties together the physical and spiritual realities. I'll get into that in a little bit. Let's keep to the fundamentals first. Mm-hmm. For those that are in the legal state of mind, which is the matrix, by the way, the legal name is the control mechanism that enslaves humanity, making, well, you think that you're a piece of paper, a set of sigils on a piece of paper. And the truth of the matter is this. People think a contract is made on paper. It's not. It's made in the choice within you. As soon as you agree or decide to do one thing or another, that is a contract. And by your actions, you are shown. So if you agree to do something and carry it through, your actions will convey that. So if you're using a legal name, identification of any kind whatsoever, and if you look it up, you'll see it for yourself. It says on the birth certificates. Might have to do a little digging, but it's there. I have it on mine. It's like it's in bold at the bottom. Warning: not to be used for identification purposes. Yet you cannot create any identification on this planet without it. So it's telling you right out of the gate. And of course, there's the caution on the version of birth certificate that was issued to my parents. It says caution. Any falsification or false certificates created is also a crime, and that is any identification: passports, bank accounts, credit cards, debit cards, anything that involves a legal name in the legal matrix of commerce. You see, legal and commerce are one and the same. Remember, all the courts are the very simplistic way of looking at it. The courts are all admiralty. Okay, so this is the law of the sea, and all of these things interconnect when you're dealing with canon law. It doesn't matter whatever it is. Everything that we have in our man-made matrix is a mimic or a copy of universal law designed to deceive. So the key to the game is simply this: the legal name. Once you understand that it's fraud, it's not yours. You didn't create the body you're walking around in. Mom and Dad did. You didn't name the body you're walking around in. Mom and Dad did. And you didn't sell the name to the crown through registration. Mom and Dad did. So effectively, when you, the being, enter the body on the first breath, that's when the spirit enters the trees of life, called Gemini, the lungs. Okay? You're actually getting into a car, allegorically,
right,
that was sold. Mm-hmm. And if you use the name of the car, then you're creating the contract to the contract with your mom and dad that they made with the crown unknowingly. This was not revealed to mom and dad on the registration. It wasn't told to me with my children. It wasn't told to anyone with their children. So the standard fundamental law maxim comes into play. A fraud revealed is null and void, nunc pro tunc. And that decision is not on paper. That decision you make to be the legal name or not is made in your mind and heart once you understand the truth of what's going on here. The legal name says that you are okay with slavery. And then, of course, with the way the whole system works, with this physical survival, which is so contrary to spiritual living, is how mankind is kept in fear, kept hungry, kept wanting, kept being shown that there's lack of this, there's a shortage of that, and all the rest of it. So it keeps the human mind in a state of survival. You know, you don't see too many people in, you know, mainstream doing anything better than survival. The only ones that are doing anything better than survival are the ones that are stealing, i.e. the bankers, the churches, and all of the conglomerate, if you will. And I don't like to separate them and us, because we're all one. But there is a point of consciousness, one point of consciousness that is evil. And everything that's attached to that is a fractal. So what we do is collapse lies. And when you do that, you collapse part of that tree. So what we've done is collapse the tree down to one single thread, if you will. That's the trick. Okay, legal name is the key. Now, the real trick of the game and how it's mastered, this is why they're called magistrates. They do work in magic, pure magic, called sound, language. What I discovered was the original living language called Phonics, or Phoenician. All Roman law is based on Phoenician. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take that literally, you're thinking man-made, you know, the Hammurabi and the Nag Hammadi and all the rest of these things. No, that's not what this is. I'll give you a quick example of how words, under assumption and presumption, have you thinking you're saying one thing when you're saying something else. And it's a really easy example.
Sure.
Have you ever heard someone say that a cop said to them, "Do you refuse to have a lawyer?" A cop has actually said that to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that.
Right. So if you say yes, you're damned. And if you say no, you're damned. Because when you say, no, I don't refuse it, and then they'll give you a lawyer, one of their team, to deceive you from behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. They work for the same team. Or if you say, I do refuse a lawyer, what you're saying is, phonetically, is that you still want one, because the word refuse means to join again. If you blow a fuse in the panel, you go and refuse it. Uh-huh. Right? Yeah. So there is a different intention contained within it. But in common speak, people think that to refuse something is to say no, or if you pronounce it refuse, it's garbage. So the assumptions and presumptions that people make in common speak, it's because we speak so fast, we don't even know what we're saying. So what I did was I decoded the language phonetically. And what I mean by that is I find the equal and opposite, the positive and negative meaning in every word, which there is. There's a positive and a negative. There's the example of refuse, mm-hmm. right? One means the complete opposite of the other. So when you collapse that, that's the 0 point of the word, because sound got trapped in these sigils with assumptions and presumptions. And we walk around talking just literal Babylon. That's phonetic. It's a truth. And it's really neat when you catch on to this, you see the magic everywhere. So what I do then, after I take the word refuse and find it's -1 and +1, which equals 0, now the word is empty of any intent outside of me. So I redefine the word using my definitions, not their definitions. You see, it's Phoenician law. Mm-hmm. So I change it letter by letter. So here's what the definition of that word is, letter by letter. That word, translated phonetically, is this: the spirit breath into the consciousness through the heart of intent of divine feminine consciousness. Source itself. So that's a different meaning that you won't find in a book anywhere, because it's in my book of life. Uh-huh. You see, so what we do then is we put our own intentions, our own meanings into the word. So now, anytime the word refuse is used, it's been literally collapsed for all. And that's the energy that's going out now. So it's a bigger picture here. We'll get into that really deep stuff shortly.
Yeah, that is a great introduction. And, you know, you hear these things about the Freemen on the Land movement, or the, what's it called? The sovereign citizen movement.
Citizens, yeah. The idiot movement. Uh-huh. The idiot movement, I call it. Yeah, it's, I call them the gimmies, and they're caught in the matrix. Because here's the problem with the free man and the cops and all the rest of it. They're all the same to me. If you use a legal name, you're committing fraud, and I can prove it. It says right on the birth certificate that it's Crown copyright. Now, the Crown will never assert, it says in their manuals, will never assert their ownership of a Crown copyright. Well, why would they? The scam works too good. Why would you assert a copyright infringement on someone using a legal name that you never had permission to use? Do you have a bar card? That's what a bar card is. A bar card says that the holder of the card, the member of the bar, has the right of use of Crown copyright. And remember, a name is not a title. Mr. and Mrs. is a title. Okay?
Right.
The name is contained in the body of the work. Remember, songwriter, publishing company, I kind of know a thing about copyright because I grew up through it. This is as a songwriter, 25, 30 years of. So with a copyright and a body of the work, it's like this. You cannot copyright a title, only the body of a work. So I'll explain that easily. How many songs do you know that are different with the same title?
Right, yeah, plenty.
Plenty, right? So you can't copyright the title, but you can copyright the body of the work. So here's the trick they pulled. The body of the work is the name written on the page inside the book. The book is copyright, thus the body of the work is copyright, not the title. So we've removed the illusion of a name being a title. And actually a name means way. That's the etymology. So if you're using a legal name, that's the way of the Whore of Babylon that you're walking. Now, if you understand what your name really means phonetically, and I show people how to do this, then you will find your way. So I don't have a name. I have a way. Kate is a way. It is the spirit of the law of truth and consciousness, K-T-E. It's actually the spirit of the Christ mind in the law of truth in consciousness. K-A-T-E. So Kate is not a name, it's a state of mind. It is a concept, right?
Yeah.
And it's the Christ mind. And this is the greatest story ever told. And the churches do such a wonderful job of teaching it backwards. And if you don't do what I say, we're going to put you on that cross thing like we have this guy at the front of the altar here. So best behave, kids. And I tell you, those of us that walk this path, we go through our allegorical crucifixions. I did.
Right.
So any of the free men on the land and sovereign citizen, patriot, and legal stuff, they're all defying copyright. You can't do a court case without using a legal name. That's a fact. Go ahead and try.
Yeah, see, I really think you are onto something, and probably the most convincing way I've heard you explain it in the past is when you were trying to find this truth, it had to be, to find the key to the enslavement, it had to be something applicable to everyone, had to be done against our will from cradle to grave, and had to be something they would fight tooth and nail to keep in place. And you're right, it's the legal name. I can't think of anything more fundamentally important to that system.
That's it. Everything is based on it. Because remember, the money is created off the birth bonds. The birth bonds they're graded like any other bond. I mean, you can look at a hospital application, the questionnaire that a mom will get, is the child, they'll ask you if you're Hispanic, white, black, and they'll ask you if, is it the same father? And what they're doing is they're grading the bond to see its value. So to give you an example, someone that, say, grows up in the ghetto, the Bronx or whatever, I don't care wherever it is, doesn't have the same bond value as a Yale kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the bond is assessed a value at the beginning, and let's say the kid in the ghetto, their bond is set at $50,000. It's worth that. We'll get $50,000 out of taxes and stuff out of this individual. What this is, the grading of a bond is a way of saying how much they'll be able to squeeze out of that slave during their lifetime. So they'll be able to squeeze a lot more taxes and mortgages and everything else out of someone that comes out of a household that is, say, millionaires versus someone that's on a social security check, you see. Right? So they literally do this. Now that's where the money's created. So if the baby is graded as a, low bond, $50,000, they'll create $50,000 ferns, Federal Reserve notes, based on that and pump it into the system. So this is literally mind, body, and soul that's going on here. So the money that is in existence is all fiat by decree, and it's all based on the birth certificate fraud, which of course requires one thing to make that bond active. It requires you, the living, to consent to be the dead legal name that is crown state-owned property. City of London, state. There is only one jurisdiction on this planet. And every corporation goes right back to its original registration. All things registered are all things crowned. Register means to rule the divine feminine. That's what they're after, your creation. And it plays out in the Phonics beautifully.
Huh, so at the core of this whole system, who set this thing up? I mean, where's all the money going?
Who knows where it goes? It's just, the point is, it's being parasited.
Right.
What we're dealing with here is you are the host, and there is a parasite called legal name attached to you. And it's like if you get the visual of the Matrix with Neo in the tank with all the hoses coming out of him, you're that battery cell. And it is literally draining physical energy and spiritual. It's a soul contract. If you agree to be dead with a legal name, in case you're wondering why, cops can get away with, murder, I think it's 129 years since the institution of, and not one cop has ever been charged with murder, because every situation, the police have always been able to justify it. Well, if you're making the rules up, I can justify anything.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're going to play with someone, if you're going to play Monopoly with someone that's writing the rules as they go, are you going to expect to win? So here's the only choice you have left. It's called 0 point. 0 player. Don't play. Remember the end of War Games? Professor, do you want to play a game? No. And how did they defeat the computer, the Whopper? How did they defeat it? The professor said, hey, Professor Fox says, put in 0 players. And the computer had to play itself. So when you do this, the system has to play against itself. Now it's got a worthless bond that is attached to so many different things, and it collapses all of those fractals. The bond that was created through the deception of my parents was nullified in the instant I discovered this. So what they've got there is whatever that bond, and we checked it out back about 3 years ago, and this is all literal shit. I don't like getting into this, but just to give people an example of it. What do you call it? I think it's 1.2 or 1.3 billion was what the bond that was attached to the legal name that I was using fraudulently was worth. So when I collapsed the legal name, it collapsed that bond completely. And that bond was attached to every other bond. Remember, the derivatives, the CDCs, and all of these other, dice and slice mortgages, and everything getting put into bundles.
Right.
Right. The only reason they could get away with that, and I'll get into the mortgage fraud, which this is the eye opener that really wakes people up. But what happens there is they can do that because with legal name they own all things Crown. So give you an example of mortgage fraud.
Okay.
You see, people think they own their home. They don't. One, you don't own the name, and the contract you created was through that legal name that you're using without Crown permission. Do you have a bar card? If you say no, then you're committing fraud. You don't have right of permission. You didn't get a letter from the owners of the legal name.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. That's a copyright infringement right there. And it's really funny because it's all about copyright infringement. You remember how they got Al Capone with tax evasion instead of murder?
Exactly.
This is exactly the same game. It's like, oh yeah? It's all fraud. Now, where was that mortgage? You think you own the house. Well, I'll tell you, did you sign the line after the one doing the loan up put an X there? You're the co-signer, babies.
Yeah, what does that X mean?
That's a signature. X means life, by the way. It's Phoenician. Greek, chi, ki. See, Phoenician connects every language. I speak the living language. I can connect every language. Phoenician works in all of them. This same trick that I just showed you works in every language.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of my questions for you because, that's something that comes up anytime this kind of material is talked about is, well, what about other languages? But I guess if it applies to all of them.
Yeah, well, let's prove it. Because I don't just say stuff without proof.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, there's only one thing that every language on this planet has in common, and it's not the letters. It's not the words. Remember, you've got Russian characters, Korean characters, Japanese characters, Arabic characters, Western alphabet characters, and all of these different things that all create one thing when you look at them and utter them. It's called sound. Mm-hmm. Every language has sound in common, just like every human has legal name in common. Mm-hmm. So I look for the one common denominator in everything. I find the 0 point. What is the cause? What is the one thing that causes all these other things? And you cannot have a language without sound. Now, you can have American Sign Language, But then you're still going to be translating that back into a word, true or false. Yes. So what Phoenician does is it dispels the word. It takes the power out of the sigils. And for anyone that's ever done any research in the sigils and the black magic and all the rest of it, that's the trick that the parasites used. What I'm showing people is how to diffuse it, collapse it, and destroy the spells, so that when they take a word like refuse, like I did, it's not their spell anymore, it's mine. You see the difference?
Yeah.
I changed the sound of the meaning within refuse, live in this show with you.
And even the word spelling, that right there is got a meaning to it.
Well, it tells you right out in your face. You know, that's why they sentence you and put you in a cell, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want your power, and of course they use words. You know, the letter kills, remember that? Some guy, Paul, I think, said that somewhere.
It is trippy stuff, but I mean, you know, if people want to test it, you know, you think it's hard to get your newborn out of a hospital without the vaccines, try to get out without a legal name and a birth certificate.
Yeah, they love holding moms and kids hostages until they get that. And even if you get out, they send a birth certificate along with baby boy or baby girl. And this has literally happened.
So this basically, you're telling us how this is a spiritual battle, and
it's a scam. It's a spiritual scam, because if you agree to be a legal name, you've agreed to be dead by consent. You see, the legal name, in the most literal sense, is the gate to hell. You can't be alive and have a legal name. It's a dead, fictional, two-dimensional, flat Earth world. It's a papacy.
So who is taking the ownership of all these possessions that are being registered?
Well, they go to the crown, and whoever is, you know, whatever little team is running this scam are the ones milking it. But it's not the money they're after. This is what I have to get across to people. It's not the money they're after. That's just the effect. What they're really after is your soul. This is a game for your soul. In case you were ever wondering why you were on a spiritual journey, I just told you why. Maybe have a look at that. Just say, you know, at least look at it, you know. Don't fluff this stuff off because it sounds different and weird and outside the box. You see, that's what happens when we get programmed in schools as children, in churches as children, with our parents. Remember, we came in here crystal clear, absolute pure, and our canvas was already painted for us. Our reality was already decided and defined for us. Okay, you're going to be white, you're going to be black, you're going to be male, you're going to be female, you're going to be Christian, you're going to be Muslim, you're going to be Jew, you're going to be American, you're going to be Afghani, you're going to be Lithuanian, you see, wherever you show up on the planet, your canvas is predetermined for you by the family around you and the community around you. And the Crown has done a masterful job of creating all these little corporations called countries and all sorts of little flags to make everyone feel special and different from everybody else. But it's the biggest divide and conquer of humanity going. I don't know about you, but when I look at the planet, I only see one Earth. I don't see any squiggly lines on the ground. And how many times have these maps changed? So what is real here? And that's what we're dealing with. Is real, not Israel. This is what it means to be the children of Israel, not what is fake.
Interesting.
And the legal name is not real. It's all in the phonics. I'll play this game with you all day long, and you'll have little aha moments going, oh, yeah, look at that, look at that, look at that. That's what I do. I show you the magic.
Yeah, money's another good one I've heard you talk about.
Yeah, moon eye. Yeah. Worship of sin. That's the ancient goddess, the moon, sin. So if you're worshiping the false idol called the legal name, here's the thing for the Christian fundamentalists. You better wake up to this one real quick. Because using a legal name, you're breaking all 10 of the commandments, and I can prove it. That's all it takes. I've said it very clearly. The legal name is the gate to hell. Come back through, close the gate forever. And only then, that's when, you know, ye must be born again. That's what the guy was talking about. It wasn't about, take me as your savior. No, that was the last thing J-Boy was saying. He was telling you, you know, why do you call me Lord, yet not do the things I do, dopey? You know, I put the J-Boy in very literal senses. I mean, these were all fictional works. They're all allegorical works. They're not literals. You know, they got people looking for cities in the Bible that never existed. You know, it's funny. I mean, all these books, the Quran, the Bible, the Vedics, all of this stuff came out of Egypt, the Greeks, right? The Greeks wrote this stuff. Well, look at the name Jesus. It's 888. It's a Greek word. It's not a Middle Eastern. I don't know about you, but I don't know too many Arabian or Middle Eastern types called Peter, Paul, Mary, Joe,
Mark, yeah.
Yeah, Mark, Luke, those are all Western names.
Right. So what happened there?
Well, see, these are the blatant clues to say, hey, wake up. Mm-hmm. So I did.
And I know early on in this, we've kind of tiptoed around it, but you got started digging into the Vatican. And what's their role in all this?
Well, it's a triple crown, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the papal crown, it's a triple crown, that's a trinity. So I looked for the trinity, and there are 3 city-states on the planet that run this place. It's true. Mm-hmm. You have the Vatican City, which is a country, state. Then you have the City of London, state, a country within the City of London, England, right? When you send something to the City of London, you don't write England, because it's not in England.
It's like a district, like D.C. or something.
No, it's a country, and the next one is Washington, District of Columbia, which is a registered country. Now, what did I say about registered? All things registered are all things crowned. So that's your triple crown trinity of Rome, London, D.C. Now remember, D.C. also means direct current. So that attaches right to the bonds. That's why all the birth certificate bonds are stored in Washington, D.C. Because it's draining the direct current of the spirit out of the bonds and the contracts. The legal name is do you know the story of the devil at the crossroads signing a deal with the devil? That's what the legal name contract is. Tear it up.
And
you were deceived into it.
And you mentioned the Bank of London. I've heard you say that's owned by a single person, right?
It's got one owner. Yes, it's and of course almost 700 lawyers. Okay, right. For a bank. Yeah, okay. Anyway, 1694 was the Bank of England Act. That's when William III sold the living crown to the dead crown, and that's why Queen Elizabeth Windsor. I don't call her queen; she's no queen. Anyway, when she goes into the City of London, in the middle of London, England, the capital of where she's supposed to be the ruler of, she has to bow and ask for permission to the Lord Mayor. Mm-hmm. That should tell you something. You say. And there's also two or three. Yeah, there's actually 3 mayors of London. There's the mayor of the City of London proper, England. Then you have 2 Lord Mayors in the role in the City of London itself. One is bank appointed, the other is Rome appointed.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I've done the research. This is all I do, 24 hours a day. I have for the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I might have uncovered a rock or two. I tell you, most of the early rocks I turned over had cobras under them, but it's okay. I learned how to handle the cobra. They don't like me much.
So they're siphoning our spiritual energy. What are they doing with that?
Well, you see, they have no ability to create. You see, that's the true child. The true child of creation has all the power of creation itself. That's what kind of makes you special. Mm-hmm. You see, you can't get there without being in human form. So what they're actually doing is, because they are empty, void of life, they must deceive one with life out of life so that they can live. Think of the vampire concept. A vampire must feed on human blood to survive. And that's exactly the allegory of the system. So the legal name is like the wolfbane or the garlic at the door. The wolves and the vampires cannot cross your threshold unless you invite them in. The legal name says, come on in and feed on me. No. And I'm saying this very lightly, but this is a most serious thing. Your soul is on the line on this, guys. Mm-hmm. I know this to be true, not because it's theory, because I lived it, and there are many others in 0 point. That's what I call no legal namers. The ones that have absolutely nothing to do. We're not in or of Babylon at all. What we've done is removed ourselves from it, and really neat miracles happen around us.
Well, yeah, let's talk about you a little bit. I mean, you have divorced the legal name, driver's license, bank accounts, passports, and all the luxuries of being a good little slave. But can you give the curious folks some insight into your personal highs and lows of walking this path?
Oh, that's all I've been doing every night. You see, what I've been doing every night, I'm on the air 7 nights a week. So what people get to experience with me is my everyday with their everyday. And we share our book of life stories, not the literal, let's talk about chemtrails. Now, that's all literal nonsense to distract you and all the rest of it. So don't go there. Anyway, every night I talk about the experience of how I walked here. If you want to know Just read the essays. That's my book of life. I actually sat down to write it where most people didn't. So that's all that is, and that's why the information contained within it is so profound, and it is miraculous stuff. Because here's where I'm at. I'm not caught in the past, memories and victim and all the rest of that, nor am I caught in the future of, well, it's coming up to Christmas, and I gotta see everyone's lives are planned. They keep you in a state of fear and victim, keeping you in past moments, and of course your year is planned for you every year. Go ahead, tell me you didn't celebrate New Year's Day or Christmas or Thanksgiving or a birthday or whatever. Your year is planned for you. So your time, your calendar is your trap. March 17th. Oh, it must be St. Patrick's Day. Let's go drink some green beer. Tell me the planet isn't programmed. I mean, look, Halloween just ended, and the next day all the shelves are filled with what? Christmas stuff. So you have been made so predictable using their holy days of worshiping the whore of Babylon commerce with your mark of the beast legal name, and you don't even know it. But you're just so dazzled with, oh, this is fun, look at the sparkles and all. Yeah, Rome, bread and circuses, you're caught in the matrix. And of course, it's easy to dazzle children with trinkets and treats. No, the truth of it is, once you get into the now, which is where I live, 0 point, I'll tell you how to get there. It's really easy. It's called have a look around you. Do you have everything you need? Yeah. And you have more than you need. You have so much abundance. How about you compare your life to a child sleeping in the gutter right now, freezing and starving, and you tell me what you have in terms of need and abundance versus that child. So that's where I live. I live as that child, constantly in the now, in full appreciation of the abundance, the absolute abundance. I have a pillow. I'm warm. I have a computer. I can talk to people. I can move freely, which is a far cry more abundance than that child that is starving and dying in the street. Don't you think?
Right.
So that's where I live. That keeps me in my now in absolute appreciation and gratitude of all that I have, which is so abundant. And I accept all of creation and all of the lessons that I need to learn to walk the path of truth. And that's all that the masters were teaching, J-Boy especially. Mm-hmm. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one gets to the Father except through me. Now, people think that Father is masculine. It's not. It's feminine. Mother is masculine. And I can prove it phonetically. Fa is heart. There's your theos, and it's a trinity, T-H-E, and I'll show you what that is phonetically. T is the law of truth, Phoenician, which is an X inside a circle. Look it up. Mm-hmm. H is the bridge duality, which is the trinity united. The duality is joined with the bridge at the middle. So that's the itself. And you have E, which is lowercase e is a 9 in the mirror. So it's consciousness in the mirror. Just like a capital E is a 3 in the mirror, which is the Trinity consciousness itself. So THE is in the law of truth of the bridge duality of consciousness. And then, of course, R is the Greek sound rho, which is spirit breath. Very, very special letter. That's why they use the P, the false, the lie, to reverse the rho from the left side, the divine masculine, to the right, overlaying the divine feminine.
Man, everything is opposite in this backwards world.
Right. So there's Father, the heart of creation itself through spirit breath. Everything comes from the heart. That's your divine feminine, magnetic, Mary. It goes on and on and on, right? And Mother, well, that's the intent, the modus operandi of creation through spirit breath. So now the term Father, Son, Holy Ghost means a whole lot different, doesn't it? Now you have the truth of it. You have the mother, the child, and the intent, which is the Holy Spirit that is inside creation herself, making the itself. You see, when we intend to do something in the false light of this Luciferian world, which it is, we are being the fallen ones, the Lucifers, thinking that we can outdo creation itself. It's very arrogant, don't you think? So I took the L, the right angle of Ra, the false light, Lucifer, out, and I put the spirit breath back in, the R. Trade the left for the right, and you'll see what's going on here. Flip it back. They flipped it over, so flip it back. And it's upside down, so flip it over again. Remember, when you look at something, it's coming in upside down in your eyes, and your brain has to turn it upright. Mm-hmm. Right? So what I'm doing is using that in reverse. And it's a really simple thing. It just takes a little bit of practice. My life experience was perfect. I had to go through my crucifixion, my hell. I remember my crowning moment. That was February 11th at 7 p.m. when I was kidnapped at gunpoint while my family, Sue and my youngest daughter, Hillary, had to endure a SWAT raid while my other daughter, I just dropped off at a birthday party. What a crime, eh? And literally raped my family. Never mind what they did to the house and everything else. You know, if you want to see a thief, just look for a uniform, because that's what they're trained to do.
Right.
If I made a list of the things that they just stole outright, you would be as sickened as I am by these crazy little bratty children out stealing stuff. Lucifers, serving the dark, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I endured, and this was for exposing the bank fraud and the criminal fraud of the police department in the city of Guelph, which I did rather well. And unfortunately for me, I was already very well known in the city of Guelph. Royal family name, by the way. Funny how that works. That's where the judge bowed to me in the court, by the way.
Right.
Have you ever seen that video?
I have, and I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not make the connection, but millions of people have seen that. And if they've ever looked up the sovereign citizen movement or anything like that, that is
You've
you.
seen it. That's me. You've seen me. That's the judge bowing to me, the only time it's ever happened in history. And I'll tell you what, it only had to happen once, because you thought it was impossible before that. Now it's not so impossible, is it?
Right.
Because it happened.
Describe that for people who haven't seen it. What exactly is going on there?
Well, it's going back September 1st, 2010, so we're over 4 years ago, right? So we've come a long way since then. But even then, and I was new. I was as shiny new as they could get. I really didn't come into the movement until March of 2010. So I kind of went the advanced route. Didn't know it but at the time, but I knew at the point that they were just testing me, because the truth of that whole situation was there was no parking tickets. None. This was a test. They tried to serve me 3 times and failed. So if I never showed up, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. But the thing was, I didn't know well enough that I should never have showed up, because even if you show up in a court trying to say you're not the legal name, this is why you can't do this anymore. Well, what made you think you had to be there? Right? So the contract, you cross the bar when you think the legal name is you and you have to appear in a court. You're already across the bar. So any of these free man idiots and sovereign nuts, and then see, look what I just did. I just dispelled the whole angle that the cops are using to try to, because I'm agreeing with them, you see. Mm-hmm. These people are a bunch of vengeance seekers that are still fist fighting. They need to let this go. And that's what I've done, is I've let everything go. That which has been stolen from me can never be returned to me. No, you owe that to consciousness. I'm Pontius Pilate here. I'm washing my hands of this. So I did. And amazing things started to happen. Go back to March 14th of this year. I did it live on the air if you want to hear it. It's called Outside the Box, The Confrontation. We're live on the air at 7:22 into the show, 22 minutes into the show. I was confronted by 3 Ontario provincial police officers. And for the next half hour, they were spinning out, not able to get a jurisdiction. Because I would, not only would well, you listen to it, you'll hear exactly what I said. And I even told the lady that was first talking to me, I said to her, don't think I'm one of those freemen on the land or sovereign citizen idiots. I'm Phoenician. That one dropped her jaw. And even when she tried to write down the name Kate, I said, well, who are you? So, well, if you want to know about me, just Google Kate of Gaia. So she assumed that was my name. And I said, no. I didn't say that was a name. I said, if you want to find me, just Google that. Mm-hmm. Because Kate of Gaia is not a name. It's a state of mind. It is a way. Kati Uv Kaiya, which is the spirit of the Christ mind and the law of truth of consciousness, with the ultraviolet, the high crown of the spirit of the Christ mind of darkness creating light. Ea. Yan yin. You see, they even teach you yin yang. No, it's yan yin. Yin is the light. And if the yin, the Luciferian light, is placed before creation itself, that's the trick. So you remember, in the beginning, God created darkness?
Nope, light.
No. So where did the light come from, silly? Hey, good point, Kate. Yeah, so that's where I look for the common denominator. What really is. So I literally, and of course, cracking the codes letter by letter, you get real good at looking real close into words. And being a songwriter, I mean, my catalog's over 5,000 songs. I've had a lot of practice at playing with words.
Right, and that's another thing. Being a musician, I wanted to talk to you about this whole
432?
432 verse 440 debacle. Tell us about that. What happened there?
Well, it's a really simple thing. When you understand what 432 is, it is the resonance of the heart frequency. That's what all of the orchestras had been attuned to for centuries, because it was a natural heart frequency, 432 hertz, creating a natural 528 hertz C, the true C note, the true note of unconditional. That's why a piano is balanced on the what? The middle C. So the 432 is the heart frequency, and 440, guess what, is the mind frequency. So if the frequency, it's only 8 hertz difference, but what a difference infinity makes. 8, don't you think? Okay, when you shift it 8 hertz up, what you have now is the ability to penetrate the minds of every person with every subliminal you can put your hands on, and they won't hear it audibly.
Wow, that's crazy. See, I find this thread so fascinating, and something that I had read was that just as World War II was starting is kind of where they started with this. The Rockefeller Network was really getting their propaganda machine going, using all the newspapers to shape opinions, getting TVs put in every home, experimenting in mind control techniques, and music was a big part of all that. And they had big campaigns in multiple countries trying to get this standard tuning changed, and nobody was biting. Nobody felt like they needed to make this change. And they really did a couple of things. First one being a pattern they use a lot. They made an official organization like the National Music Association, and then you use that as a front for the experts to announce the change, but then still people were skeptical, and they made the movie Fantasia through Disney, which is all in 440, and if you watch it, there's some live action scenes in areas where there's a subtext of showing off the new standard in music, this new milestone, the cutting edge of the technology, and apparently that's why Fantasia was made. And I guess it took a good 10 years or so, but eventually they got everyone on board, and today we're stuck with 440.
Well, yeah, and it goes back to the original ruling, and I'm going to make some real serious fun of this one. The ruling in 1955 that the concert pitch frequency of 432 was legally changed to 440. I'm sorry. I tune my guitar to whatever I want.
Well, right, yeah.
And don't worry, I've got the WAV file program on the keyboard. Well, I used to have one until it was stolen, but anyway, that I could change the frequency of the 440 to 432. Now, here's the thing about 432 and 440. It is so minute, a shift in frequency. It's inaudible by the human ear, but it is totally audible by the human ear without you hearing it. So it was a nifty trick. And again, this goes back to, Joseph Goebbels talked of this in 1938, of wanting to change the frequency. Now, when you understand the true histories of what's going on here and the cults that have been flying around, you're dealing, in the U.S., you're dealing with the Fourth Reich, if you will. And this is just a continuation, and the Fourth Reich is just a continuation of the pharaohs of Egypt. It's the same story. And what I did was I found the root story, the greatest story ever told, the one thread, the one ring that rules them all. And I can see the one story in everything with infinitely different subplots, but it's all the same story. So when you figure out what the story is, and it's the Christ walk, it's your walk home, and you're being distracted. It's like Dorothy and the crew on the yellow brick road wandering off into the poppy fields, distracted, and you fall asleep. So this is the cold, hard truth called snow. Water is the allegory for truth, just like silver is. The cold, hard truth was the only thing that woke them up, wasn't it? And these are the allegories that are playing out in a magical, literal way when you can finally see it. How was the Wicked Witch of the West finally destroyed by the door of God in full character Toto Jeannery? She was destroyed with what? Water. Truth dissolves everything. It melts every witch on this planet, and it ends all the spells. And when the witch was melted, was everybody mad at Dorothy? No. Even the ones in uniform that woke up in that instant, understanding their own slavery, came over to thank her and cheer her on. Theos, Dorothy, the door of God. This is all, I can show you the whole legal game through The Wizard of Oz. I can show you the whole spiritual. I can show you every story through one.
So how do we melt the head witch? How do we get rid of the parasites?
Step into the truth, lose the name, win the game. And that's a big pill. And I assure you, I do know this. I walked the path. Here's the neat part, though. There are many of us that walked through the minefields first and got blown up along the way, healed and walked further. We're on the other side of the minefield, and I've cut a path clear through. But here's the thing. It's up to you to stay on the path. I can show you where the path is. And the path is truth. And every time you find a lie in your life that you have been living, you must stop doing it. And the biggest lie everyone on this planet that plays in the commerce world has been living is the legal name. It is the one thing that kills you dead, mind, body, and soul. It is the gate of hell that when you use it, you are in hell, stepped through with the gate closed behind you. But it was never locked. The key is the legal name. Unlock it, step through. And don't worry, there are many 0 points like myself out here now. And here's the magic trick that we have. We're your lifeline. We're your soul lifeline.
So, I mean, that's well said. What can you tell us from your personal experience that would kind of ease some of the anxiety and fear that people might have? Because as soon as you start thinking about losing the legal name, you think about all the things that they say you need it to do. But I know you've lived a life without this, so tell us about that.
I've lived a life in absolute desolation and abundance at the same time. Because here's what happened when I finally figured it out and let creation take the reins. And that's all you got to do. Just let whatever shall be, que sera, sera. And accept that in full gratitude of the lesson, because when you walk in truth, you're coming home. That's the promise that creation made. So I keep my promise, creation keeps its. So that's what I do. To give you an example, I haven't had an income in over 5 years. How have I survived? Well, by the edge of my fingernails a few times, but I knew that I would be okay. And I was not always happy where I was, but I was grateful because I was warm and had a pillow. And it sure beat being in the street like the child starving and dying. So I always remembered that. So I was always kept in a state of absolute gratitude. And it took a bit for me to bust that ego, to get that, oh, woe is me garbage out of my way. And that's the only thing that's going to happen with children. All of a sudden, they think they're not getting treats anymore. But here's the problem that the children on this planet have. If you don't appreciate what you've got already in absolute abundance and you're still looking for more, Lucifer, do you honestly think that mom and dad, mama, papa, heart of all creation, are going to give you any more gifts? Of course not, because you don't appreciate that one. And if you keep opening the gift going, is that all I get? Don't expect to get any more present. It all plays out in the phonics. Okay? So what I did was I accepted that fully. I said, okay, whatever will be, will be. And like I said, I haven't had an income in over 5 years. And this year alone, because of the role I play as Judas, the treasurer, I figure this year, what has come in, I've given away over 30 grand.
Damn.
Because I have what I need. I need basically $100 a week in food.
Right.
I've got my car, I've got my guitar, I've got a pillow, I got heat, I got a place to put my head and do the job I came here to do. And this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to wake humanity up. And the abundance is mind-blowing.
Man.
And I can't give it away fast enough. So if you're worried about your survival, I just killed it.
Right.
You don't need it. Once you accept all of creation, and that's the thing too. We have in Babylon world, we have a means through PayPal. Remember, I'm not of Babylon or in Babylon, but we have those that are not of Babylon and still in Babylon. That's a simple concept, by the way. Remember, it says get out of Babylon. Yeah. What this means is once you get out of the legal name completely, you're out of Babylon completely. So it's very difficult to operate in this world you can operate with cash, and cash was created off my birth bond anyway. So it belongs to us. So it's a neutral, nullified, absolute benevolent intent now instead of the evil corporate parasitic host deliverer, right? So what we have there is a means, and that's the life. Those that are not of Babylon but in Babylon, that can flow to those not of or in Babylon. We're their lifeline in the same way that they're ours. So what we do is we disperse what comes in to those that are full no-namers to make sure that creation has you. Don't worry. And miracles will happen. Things will appear like magic for you, and you're not expecting it. Isn't that what a present is all about? Surprise. I just like good surprises. And that's all we give is are good surprises, and we have 100% victories at the table. Everything is a victory to me. You can choose defeat or you can choose victory out of every situation. And me, I just choose to snatch the victory from the jaws of defeat, illusion, every time. And I do it every night. I'll make you right, which defies your ego. I'll just show you how to see it to make you right.
Well said. It's a fascinating thread, and another example of, not really being basically the illusionary nature of this stuff is that you've also traveled internationally without using your legal name, right?
Well, actually, this is going back to 2011. I had no identification, no legal name whatsoever, and I got into discussion with the British High Consulate back in 2011 after my dad died, because I had to get his ashes back to Ireland. That's where we showed up here on this planet. So I was left with a quandary. How do I get my dad home? It's his last will and testament to get his ashes home to where my mom is buried. So I said, okay, well, what do I got to do? So I called up the British High Consulate and spent many hours talking to a gentleman called Page, where he, in fact, admitted, this is a consulate official, okay? When I told him I do not wish to use the legal name in fraud, I don't have Crown permission to use this, and I need something to get me from here to Ireland and back to get my dad's ashes home. And I can't use this legal name because I would be committing fraud to do so, and you don't want me to commit fraud. And I went, no, Kate, we don't want you to do that. And he said, well, tell you what, we'll put together an emergency passport for you, but you have to come to Ottawa to get it. It didn't say it outright, but they have to see you, right? So I went there in the living flesh, 5.5 hour drive, and it took 20 minutes to get it. $180. They like their money, but whatever. But I got handed an emergency passport that I got on my terms, not theirs. And I've never been through customs so quick in my life, because every time I travel back and forth, anywhere I went, because I carried a British passport before, I was an easy target. Oh, the white being with the passport, pull them through customs. And there wasn't any time I traveled that I wasn't pulled into immigration. And this time, I was asked, well, do you have, I forget what they call it, some sort of a card. And I said, why do I need that? I live here. Oh, okay, have a nice day. And that was it.
It falls apart so quickly.
The matrix falls apart at the seams. And I can only imagine what was on the screen when the passport was scanned, because I was gone in a second. Have a nice day.
Yeah, it messes up even their programming.
Yeah, so that's going back 3 years ago. Okay, but we've had people travel internationally without any identification whatsoever. If you go to losethename.com, there's a little, I called it the anti-ID card, which explains why you will not commit fraud or carry any identification. Great story from Civ Elizabeth. She traveled from, I think it was Norway to Germany to Portugal. No passport, no ID, nothing.
Wow. Using basically the same method?
Well, no name. And there are a lot of people, you'll see the stories on the internet, a lot of people traveling internationally. I got an email from a guy that had already been through, I think, 6 countries with no ID and no passport, through Mexico and stuff like that. Going down to South America, went through Central America, Mexico, and what have you, right?
Wow.
And, people keep me updated on what they're doing. And we have more people around this planet than I would care to count now that are awakened to this truth, that the only thing that grants anyone with a uniform, a robe, or a nice looking suit jurisdiction is if you bring the jurisdiction to your door by claiming to be a legal name. Because, you've heard the stories of the free man and stuff. They're talking about, they're foreign agents. They're from the city of London state. Yeah, they are. That's your first clue. So how do you think they have jurisdiction over you? Because if you're working with universal law, and you have to, there has to be a trick there to make you believe something in order for that universal law to come into effect, albeit in backwards fashion. Remember, consciousness creates all things. Mm-hmm. All things. And that's the trick they've done. So if you use a legal name, what you've done is you've literally stepped into the city of London state. That's why there's only one jurisdiction here, the Crown. The only other one is you. And jurisdiction means spoken oath. The dead cannot speak. That's why a lawyer and a judge will speak for you. That's why you cannot be heard in a courtroom, because you're dead.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. let's talk about the court system a little more, where a lot of this plays out. I mean, what else do people need to know?
Well, they need to know that they never need to set foot in a courtroom, because the legal name, if you think that you're the legal name and feel you need to go to a courtroom, then you have crossed the bar. You're already dead by consent. I'll give you an example of Kate the judge. You ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's Kate sitting at the bench, knowing full well what's going on. And in my courtroom, I have a uniformed executioner with a guillotine, and I have a psych analyst, someone that does psych profiling. And I've got a whole lineup of free men outside the door that think they're not the legal name. So the first one walks in, and they're trying to tell me that they're not the legal name. And I said, well, what led you to believe that you needed to be here then if you're not the legal name? So I'll give you a quick psych eval. Does he seem normal to you? She or he seem normal? Yeah, they seem normal to me. All right, well then you seem normal. You seem to know what you're doing here. So the fact is you've just committed fraud by coming into this courtroom with a legal name thinking it's yours when it actually belongs to the crown that I work for here as Judge Kate. Step over to the other one. Off with her head. So while the bailiff is walking out dragging the body with the head hanging in one hand down the line of the free men, the only thing I'm going to ask the bailiff to say is this individual thought they weren't a legal name. Not sure why they're here, but at least now you know.
So you can't.
And we'll see how many of the free men stand in the line then. So you can't even set foot into a courtroom honorably. That's why they're your honor, because they have the bar cards. They have right of use of a legal name. Remember, a legal name is an intellectual property. It's created by another, not you. Did you create the legal name? No, they did. Did you create the body? No, mom and dad did. Did you create the name you think you have? No, mom and dad did. So I chose my own. It all comes back to you. The greatest story ever told is you. So write your book of life, and you're not going to do it while you're listed in the book of the dead. You're ruled by Anubis, the heart of duality. And, we have the table set 7 p.m. every night, criticalmassradio.co.uk. Just Google Kate of Gaia. You'll find everything you need with that.
Boom. Yeah.
I'm right here. You see, I'm open to all of humanity, because if there's a phone or a computer anywhere on this planet that someone can get to, I've said this openly. You can get a hold of me. My cell is 226-971-9675. My Skype is katie.renee.thompson, Renee with 2 E's.
Open book.
Anything else? Now what I've just shared with you is that I'm open to all of humanity. And isn't it funny when people do call, they go, oh my God, Kate, you answered the phone. Yeah, it rang. What am I supposed to do? And that's basically how seriously I take myself. But yes, truly, the two-spirit, the transgender, the trans-ender, the trans-G-ender, the go across the hex-ender was the key. And I'm here to bring that bridge message. And it's not about me, the messenger. It's about the message. Mm-hmm. If you can't handle me, fine. Throw me to the dogs. I don't care. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the true baby is the message.
Amen.
Just like that. Love me or hate me, I'll bring you home. Because I love you. It's simple. I love you. I don't care if you love me or not. That's that opinions always hang out with assholes, apparently.
Right.
Yeah. I don't hang out with either.
Wow. Well, hey, on that note, this has been just a wild ride, and I loved every minute of it. A very unique perspective, very insightful. Do you want to give the people your website one more time and maybe remind them of the where they can get your radio show?
Sure. Easiest way to find me is Google Kate of Gaia, Gaia. We have losethename.com. That's a collective effort from all of us. I have nothing to do with any of the websites. These are all put together with people in our team and gathered around to get the word out. kateofgaia.wordpress.com is where you'll find the essays and my story more directly. But really, Google Kate of Gaia, and the website comes up first in the mirror. Which is kateofgaia.wordpress.com. And all the information, contact information is there, and feel free to say hi. I'm here for you. That was my job. I came here for you. I looked everywhere, and finally I found you. About time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, very awesome. Very much appreciated. Love you, Kate. Keep doing what you do and enjoy that freedom.
Guaranteed. I'm on purpose, baby. I have purpose because creation is the only thing worth that. So much love, Greg, and thank you so much for just a wonderful afternoon of just talking about what's really going on. And that's all. And notice, no literal fear porn at all. Isn't that fun?
Right.
Nice and clean. This is the book of life. Don't you prefer that?
I do. And I really respect your journey, even if I never have the strength to fully commit myself.
You don't have to. I did. You see, this is what it means. I did this for you. I did this for humanity. I gave my life. This is the Christ mind. I gave my life that you may be saved.
That's actually pretty poetic. That's great.
That's the truth, and that's what we all are. Jesus was trying to teach, like Muhammad. He was trying to teach the Christ state of mind, to follow creation.
You're out there to be an example.
That's it, and that's what he was doing. And of course, they made an example of him allegorically crucified. But I mean, you go through your crucifixions. I went through mine. I came out the other side. My birth, my spiritual birth started February 11th, 2012, 7 p.m. That's when they raided me at home, kidnapped and all the rest of it. And my complete birth of spirit occurred on March 14th at 7:22 p.m., 2014. So I went through the pains of my spiritual birth, the labor, my 12 labors of Hercules, if you will. Hera clay, the keys of Hera, the Hera, the divine feminine, her, Christ mind. Yes, it all plays out in the phonics. So if you hang out at the table anytime, just listening in or whatever, I really cover all of these very subtle details, and I expand them into the biggest pictures I can draw. And sometimes I use a paint roller.
Right.
So, truth be known. And sometimes I'll come in with the most delicate brushes and give you the finest paintings of them. Yeah. But I have to give it to all. I mean, Jesus didn't talk to the Pharisees only. He talked to the whores and the prostitutes and the lepers and the thieves and the criminals. He talked to everyone. And that's what I am. I am the voice to speak to all. And I will speak in whatever manner I have to get it through. Call it street Jesus, if you will. That's all.
I like that.
Yeah. I make Jesus cool. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Because truth is cool when you get it. It's really neat.
It is. That's why I came into this path from comedy, and I love the best comics out there are the ones who just cut right to the truth in such a bold way. And I didn't know that's what I appreciated about them at the time. And years later, it's the same game.
Well, yeah, you're a George Carlin, Bill Hicks type fan,
right?
because they're cutting through to the truth. You see, the faster and harder you can cut. That's what wit. You know what wit means? It means to know. So a witness is one who is in a state of knowing. That's why we talked of the witness, that you must be a witness for the truth, one who is in a state of knowing for it. And they will talk to you, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Not a chance do they know what that's about. So it defines out. So there's one word, two syllables, wit and ness. Wit means to know, and ness means in a state of being. So a witness is one who is in a state of knowing. So that's phonics. And really, when you take the time just to break down the syllables into their individual definitions, then the words start to expand. Then you go to the point of where I am with the Phoenician alphabet, where every letter, every shape, every symbol, every sigil, every number, everything has multiple syllables within them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating stuff. I could do it all day.
Yeah, that's what I do all day.
That's what you do all day.
So guess why I do it really good? I'm good at this because that's all I do.
Absolutely.
And that's not an arrogant statement. I'd like to think if you've been playing guitar long enough, you get pretty good, and that's all this is. I'm just playing the guitar longer, that's all.
Yeah.
Nothing special about me, man. There is. I just tell the truth. I guess if telling the truth makes you special, I'm the most special being on the planet. That's all.
Yeah.
So much love, and thanks again.
You got it. Thank you. Well, there we go, folks. What an awesome show. Kate is a really great guest. Some hosts feel the need to hear themselves talk and have to interject, but I'm not like that. So this one was easy for me. And so often I was just kind of left speechless, really. A lot of information really fast, but I loved it. And a lot of it really clicked for me. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but just thinking about it in that context of living a fraudulent life within the system with a given name, I think it's going to help me deal with the system a little more. Maybe when I'm standing in line at the DMV, instead of getting frustrated and letting it affect my mood, I could just say, look, man, if you don't like it, walk away. There's a whole new life waiting for you out there. A more honest one, so go for it. But if you're too uneasy taking that journey, then this is what you get. Suck it up. And who knows, maybe one day it'll bother me enough to do something about it. Kind of like what we talked about with Daniele Bolelli. If you work yourself up enough, you might act. I'm glad we also got to talk about the 440 Hertz conspiracy a bit. I've got a guy who has made this his whole wheelhouse and really explored it more than any other aspect. And getting that interview has proven difficult, but we're going to try again next week, so fingers crossed. But I am glad we at least touched on it. Kate broke it down really well, along with so many other fascinating things. And if you like the first hour, as always, you can join THC Plus and get a second hour, 5 2-hour shows a month for a $5 donation. And in this Plus show, we talked way more about Kate's personal story, more insights into the courts and how they work, the idea of time sliding, working yourself onto a better timeline, the connection between money systems and religions and the rich history there, no pun intended, and how the baptism ritual comes out of the same spiritual contract for the souls of our newborns. More areas in religion and in the Bible where Kate is seen through the code, and this connection between the Vatican and the observatories pointing at the Orion Nebula and how they might be aiming our energy at manifesting a negative timeline. You know, they even have a telescope named Lucifer. We also kind of told the story of how we missed the first scheduled interview because Kate was recovering from a 3-week Iboga walk. We talked about Iboga, and Kate broke down each of the psychedelics and what they do and what they're useful for. A very thoughtful breakdown. I appreciated it. We talked about seals and blood and the Midas touch and the point of life outside of this Triple Crown control network. We covered a lot of ground. All around, I consider this an A+. We got to cops a bit in the Plus show, and I actually had a lot of listeners cancel their Plus memberships over my Ferguson protesters rant, sadly. But now they won't have to be offended again this week. They can listen to Red Eyes, who seems to be siding with the cops for some reason, rather than the oppressed underclass that I feel like we're all a part of. I'm just saying, these cops are just the soldiers for the system that I thought we were all fighting. But what do I know? So I lost some Plus members. And I'm feeling like maybe I'm way off the mark for my own audience on this. I don't know how that could happen, but if I'm wrong, think about getting THC Plus. And again, big thanks to Kate. She really is living it. I'm sure she would appreciate some messages from you guys. Let her know that you liked her on the show for real. I mean, she made it easy for you. Give her a call. And that's about it for me. What else is there to say? You know, one of my personal favorite rituals when I'm doing this is the end